Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in for another Midnight Mirage Classic. Just want to welcome everybody, and I'm appreciative to have you here. So before we move forward, I just want to give some positive energy and some success energy to the men and women out there that are working on a short-term or a long-term goal. And I just tell you to stay down and come up, stay concentrated and stay focused, and be patient. And take things one day at a time. Don't try to overload yourself. One day at a time, all right? Hopefully you all have been gaining a lot of insight and knowledge and wisdom from my brother Aleem and the different snippets of information he puts out with his short videos, giving you certain life lessons and giving you understanding in, particular areas of expertise that he may have. So I hope that you all have been gaining from that, and there will be more content coming from him. We're going to produce a lot more, and you're going to see Aleem and the various Red Stick family members, being promoted on my page. So, y'all just show them some love and show them some support as well. And hit the brother Aleem up on his YouTube page. Hit him up on his Instagram. And also our Red Stick family page, where we have all Aleem's music, Volume 1 and Volume 2, The Emperor's Revival, and From Pakistan to New Jerusalem. If you haven't, please go check those out and subscribe to those pages as well, and leave comments and likes so we can get the brother more in the algorithm and his name gets more familiar. So here in the Midnight Mirage, we this is what we do on this platform. Brothers in my life that have been putting in the work, and I see they can, benefit the lives of other people with whatever it is they're putting out. You will see me advertise and promote these guys on my page. So if you support the Midnight Mirage and Blackbeard, please support them as well. So in one of the brother's previous tapes, the brother talked about everything that glitters isn't gold. He talked about everything that glitters isn't gold. And what I want to do is elaborate more on that and give a good life lesson. And you should, learn from this and incorporate this wisdom into your own personal life, okay? Now, the prelude or the introduction to this tape is I want to talk a little bit about the city of Atlanta culture, the south side of Atlanta culture, and some of the different activities that go on in the streets. When I was growing up, jugging and finessing was very, very big, and still is very, very big in the streets of Atlanta. Jugging and finessing is basically when you have a smooth talk game. You're very, very good at communication. You're very, very good at being a salesman. But there is a particular percentage of deception involved in it. So, that's what we called it, jugging and finessing. And, it happens in a lot of different ways in various street activities. If you are familiar with being in the city a lot, in various parts of Atlanta, and you hang out in certain hood places, you'll see the jugging and finessing going on at a very, very high degree. And growing up, one place that you would see it a lot are the various discount malls around Atlanta. So growing up, we used to go to the discount malls on Metro. And we would also go to the discount malls, on Terra Boulevard and Clayco. And we also would go to the discount malls on Old National off of Godby Road, Old National and Godby Road. So if you hear me use the term Old Nat, I'm talking about the Old National Discount Mall. For all the brothers, that's from Atlanta, or some of the ladies out there, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. And Old Nat is a very, very, it's the hood. You know what I'm saying? It's the hood. So growing up, we used to frequent there a lot just to hang out, go shop, talk to women. It's a lot going on Old National. On the south side, Old National is kind of like an extension of the southwest part of the city. So it's very, very fast on Old Nat. You can come across a lot of different people. It's a lot of businesses, a lot of so-called black people on Old National. So the story I want to give you all as a prelude to this is a time where I was on Old National with a guy that I know, and there was some jugging and finessing going on, and he saw something that glittered, but it wasn't gold. All right. So in this situation, there was one evening in late May, early June, And me and the brother, that I know, we had just come up on some money. All right. So we riding around in the city doing X, Y, and Z, getting places, going to places to eat, shopping, just doing that kind of stuff, right? So then we found ourselves on Old Nat, and we figured, hey, let's just, go over to the Old Nat discount mall, see what the hell going on up in there, see who's up in there, because I also knew a guy that cut hair over there, you know what I'm saying? Brothers I knew that cut hair, so we would hang out at the barbershops. We would hang out at like the little CD places where, like back then, like Baby D and Oomp Camp, like when I was in middle school, for example, you could find these, some of these big time Atlanta rappers at these discount malls. So that's just something culturally that just is in Atlanta. So even if you weren't necessarily going to shop, the discount mall was just somewhere you would hang out if you was in the streets. So that's what we were doing. We were just going up there to hang out, look around, see what they got. If it's some stuff to buy, cool. If not, hey, we in the city, we in the hood, we just hanging out anyway, right? So, me being from the streets and me being familiar with jugging and finessing and being familiar with deception, I already know what time it is. But the guy that I was with, he was a little green. Like he was a brother I was cool with, but he really never was in the streets with me. You know what I'm saying? So he was somebody I would hang with. Maybe if I was, taking a break from some of the street activity, because sometimes you got to switch it up. I had my homeboys that was on gangland shit, and street shit. I had my homeboys that was on, basketball, my AAU teammates, my high school teammates, my recreational teammates. And then I'll have my homeboys who were just kind of miscellaneous. Maybe they were a little nerdy. Maybe they just was doing their schoolwork, trying to stay out the way, right? So on this particular day, I was hanging with one of the homeboys he wasn't really street. He was just somebody that was trying to stay out the way. So he wasn't really familiar with the ins and outs. And of course, we would tell him certain stuff, but if you're not really out there, you're not going to know. So we had the Old Nat discount mall. And I remember we were about to leave. And in front of the discount mall, you got a lot of, street niggas out there trying to sell stuff, and you also got people out there pandering and begging. And then you got a certain subset of people that out there, and they have these little street games where you can put these bets up to make money, potentially, right? So the guy I was with, he saw that it was some older people over on the corner, and they had different card games and dice games. And they also had their little games where, and when I say this, a lot of y'all gonna know, they had a game where they had a board, like a cardboard box, like a flat cardboard piece of a cardboard box. And on top of it, they had basically 3 Pepsi tops. So you know how you would get a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi that comes in a plastic bottle. Imagine the cap or the top to it. So on this on this cardboard box, you had about 3 or 4 different Pepsi tops, and underneath it was like a little red ball. And what they were doing was they were going real fast, switching around the Pepsi tops, and people were placing bets on which one they thought the red ball was under. And it was about 3 or 4 or 5 of them to choose from, right? Now, me, I already know this finesse, so I'm just sitting there watching it, but I'm not really saying anything. My partner that I'm with, he sees it and he gets entranced by it because he sees something glittering and he thinks it's gold. He sees something that's a free opportunity to get some easy money, so he wants to try to tap into that. And that's going to be the root nucleus message of this tape, that you want to take the long road in life. You don't want things that appear to be easy, because anything that appears to be free has a hidden cost associated with it. So anything that appears to be free in life actually is very expensive in another way. It just may not be apparent. So in this situation, the guy I was with, he's thinking that this is going to be an easy way to get some money. So he goes over and he places down a wager. I see him doing it, and I know what he's getting himself involved in, but he's not listening to me when I tell him, like, man, you don't know these niggas over here finessing, like, So he puts his money up. So, boom, the guy does it. Mind you, the guy that's doing this with the Pepsi toss, he looked like a bum off of the streets. If I can remember correctly, I think the guy had like a missing eye or something like that. Y'all know how niggas in the city of Atlanta looking, the bums and the crackheads and shit. So he was one of them, so he out there jugging and finessing, boom, 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 boom. So then my partner put down his wage for like $50 or $100, right? And then boom, he got it right. So he got the right one. So then the guy gave him the money. So now my partner, he kind of feeling himself. So then, boom, the guy say, man, shoot, a double or nothing. So then my partner was like, all right, bet. So he put up some more money. Did it again. Boom, won again. Now, mind you, he could have took the money and left, but what the ego did and the lust and greed made him do was triple or nothing. So now he's going to triple or nothing his bet. So on the third round, boom, the street dude, he doing the bottle tops. He's doing the bottle tops. So then my partner chooses, and he chooses the wrong one, and he loses all his money. And he's sitting there with this down in the dumps look, you know, sad and all that. But mind you, when we out there, it's a whole group of niggas in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't just the guy that had the bottle tops. It was like he had a lot of people with him. And of course, they in the back cheerleading and hyping up and, you know, making my partner feel like, hey, bro, damn, you just won, bro, man. You might as well double up or nothing, bro. Damn, bro, shit, you damn hitting, bro. You might as well got down triple up or nothing. X, Y, and Z and all this stuff, right? Now, me, I'm already knowing the game. You know what I'm saying? So I'm actually kind of shocked that bro is going for this shit. So anyway, he triples or nothing, and he loses all his money, you know? And I can remember when we left, you know, he all down in the dumps. He's mad. You know, he was hungry and shit, and he don't even have any money. Mind you, me and him had just come up on a couple of hundreds before that. And I can remember it's a Taco Bell and a McDonald's right in front of the old net. You know, for my niggas from, you know, the South Side, y'all know. It's a Taco Bell right in front of it. And I remember him being so down bad that, like, you know, I had to get the man something to eat from the Taco Bell, I remember. But I can just remember giving him this lesson on, like, you know, A, on how the streets is and certain stuff you got to look out for. And B, everything that glitters isn't gold. And you shouldn't always try to leap towards these quick, you know, get rich quick schemes and these fast opportunities to get some money, because if you get it fast, you'll lose it fast. And there are a lot of trickery and deception out here. All right. So that's just a little background story I wanted to give you before we go into what the meat of this tape will be. And what we will do is we will talk about how the Amaru Americans finessed the Spanish Crusaders when they came over in the early 1500s. You got to remember that when they started to finance these trips to the Americas in 1492, 1493, when that first crew of Spaniards came, when they returned, the ones that survived, they were given all these stories about what they had seen in the Americas. All right. And they also were recording things in their journals. And one of them was that America was this city of gold, this land of gold. And, you know, it was just overflowing with gold, and all these rumors of these caverns and caves and civilizations full of gold, these streets paved of gold, all these mythologies surrounding gold. All right. So the first thing we want to look at is that these Spanish Crusaders, when they were coming over here, they were very greedy. They had ill intentions, and they planned on coming over here to try to deceive the people and murder the people out of their things. All right. So that greed and that lust for power and money is going to lead the person to look for something that's easy. And this is what eventually set them up. All right. So I'm going to read in my book, one of my favorite books, rather, called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And we're going to read law number 40, a story in law number 40, which is Despise the free lunch. All right. And we're going to talk about El Dorado and the city of gold. All right. So here's the judgment before we go into the reading. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Judgment. What is offered for free is dangerous. It usually involves either a trick or a hidden obligation. What has worth is worth paying for. By paying your own way, you stay clear of gratitude, guilt, and deceit. It is also often wise to pay the full price. There is no cutting corners with excellence. Be lavish with your money and keep it circulating, for generosity is a sign and a magnet for power. So, you know, just before we move forward, as it says, there is no cutting corners for excellence, or in other words, there is no cutting corners for success. So some of you all are thinking that, okay, you know, maybe you got a little construction company And in order for you to complete the project, it may take you a full 6 hours. But you want to try to hurry up and finish the project so you can move to the next one and keep getting money. So instead of you spending 6 hours on it, you only spend 3 hours on it. All right. So you're cutting corners. You think that the success can come by taking a shortcut. And I'm here to tell you that it does not. Most of you all out there that got short-term goals and long-term goals, if they're going to have an everlasting, positive, favorable effect for you, the people you care about, and for the greater earth environment itself, trust and believe it's going to take some time to grow. Anything that comes fast, you should be very, very questionable of it. All right. And also understand that things that have value, you should pay the full price for it. All right. So let's read our story on the Spanish Crusaders and their trip to the Americas. After Francisco Pizarro conquered Peru in 1532, gold from the Incan Empire began to pour into Spain, and Spaniards of all classes started dreaming of the instant riches to be had in the New World. The story soon spread of an Indian chief to the east of Peru who once each year would ritually cover himself in gold dust and dive into a lake. Soon, word of mouth transformed El Dorado, quote, the Golden Man, into an empire called El Dorado, wealthier than the Incan, where the streets were paved and the cities and the buildings inlaid with gold. This elaboration of the story did not seem implausible. For surely a chief who could afford to waste gold dust in a lake must rule a golden empire. Soon Spaniards were searching for El Dorado all over northern South America. In February of 1541, the largest expedition yet in this venture, led by Pizarro's brother Gonzalo, left Quito in Ecuador. Resplendent in their armor and its colorful silks, 340 Spaniards headed east, along with 4,000 Indians to carry supplies and serve as scouts, 4,000 swine, dozens of llamas, and close to 1,000 dogs. But the expedition was soon hit by torrential rain, which rotted its gear and spoiled its food. Meanwhile, as Gonzalo Pizarro questioned the Indians they met along the way, those who seemed to be withholding information or who had not even heard about the fabulous king, he would torture and feed to the dogs. Word of the Spaniards' murderousness spread quickly among the Indians, who realized that the only way to avoid Gonzalo's wrath was to make up stories about El Dorado and send him as far away as possible. As Gonzalo and his men followed the leads the Indians gave them, then they were only led farther into deep jungle. The explorers' spirit sagged. Their uniforms had long since shredded. Their armor rusted and they threw it away. Their shoes were torn to pieces, forcing them to walk barefoot. The Indian slaves they had set out with had either died or deserted them. They had eaten not only the swine, but the hunting dogs and llamas. They lived on roots and fruit. Realizing that they could not continue this way, Pizarro decided to risk river travel. And a barge was built. Wait a minute. Let me read this. Realizing that they could not continue this way, Pizarro decided to risk river travel, and a barge was built out of rotting wood. But the journey down the treacherous Napo River proved no easier. Setting up camp on the river's edge, Gonzalo sent scouts ahead on the barge to find Indian settlements with food. He waited and waited for the scouts to return, only to find out that they had decided to desert the expedition and continue down the river on their own. The rain continued without end. Gonzalo's men forgot about El Dorado. They only wanted to return to Quito. Finally, in August of 1542, a little over 100 men from an expedition originally numbered in the thousands managed to find their way back. To the residents of Quito, they seemed to have emerged from hell itself, wrapped in tatters and skins, their bodies covered in sores, and so emaciated as to unrecognizable. For over a year and a half, They had marched in an enormous circle, 2,000 miles by foot. The vast sums of money invested in the expedition had yielded nothing. No sign of El Dorado and no sign of gold. Let's read the interpretation of this story. So this is where Robert Greene, the author, he gives you an interpretation of what was going down. Even after Gonzalo Pizarro's disaster, the Spaniards launched expedition after expedition in search of El Dorado. And like Pizarro, the conquistadors would burn and loot villages, torture Indians, endure unimaginable hardships, and get no closer to gold. The money they spent on such expeditions cannot be calculated. Yet despite the futility of the search, the lure of the fantasy endured. Not only did the search for El Dorado cost millions of lives, both Indian and Spanish, it helped bring the ruin of the Spanish Empire. Gold became Spain's obsession. The gold that did not find its way back to Spain, and a lot did, was reinvested in more expeditions or in the purchase of luxuries rather than in agriculture or any other productive endeavor. Whole Spanish towns were depopulated as the menfolk left to hunt gold. Farms fell into ruin, and the army had no recruits for its European wars. By the end of the 17th century, the entire country had shrunk by more than half of its population. The city of Madrid had gone from a population of 400,000 to 150,000. With diminishing returns from its efforts over so many years, Spain fell into a decline from which it never recovered. Power requires self-discipline. The prospect of wealth, particularly easy, sudden wealth, plays havoc with the emotions. The suddenly rich believe that more is always possible. The free lunch, the money that will fall into your lap, is just around the corner. In this delusion, the greedy neglect everything power really depends on: self-control, the goodwill of others, and so on. Understand, with one exception, which is death, no lasting change in fortune comes quickly. Sudden wealth rarely lasts, for it is built on nothing solid. Never let lust for money lure you out of the protective and enduring fortress of real power. Make power your goal and money. Make power your goal and money will find its way to you. Leave El Dorado for fools and suckers. All right. So basically, and now I'll give my interpretation on it. As I said, you had these Spanish Crusaders who were hearing all these stories about gold and all the wealth in the Americas. So all the little gold and resources that they did have, they would reinvest in more men and more equipment needed to come back to the Americas in the early 1500s to find this gold civilization. And as they would come across indigenous Americans, they would torture and kidnap people and murder people if they asked for information, but the Americans had no information for them. So what the indigenous chiefs and the other people of America started to do was realize by a little jugging and a little finessing and using deception, they could mislead these Spanish conquistadors and send them on basically a wild goose chase where they would never find the gold. How many Spanish conquistadors do you think were devoured and eaten up by the different caiman and crocodiles of Florida and South America looking for El Dorado? How many titanic anacondas choked out and swallowed the conquistadors as they went deep into the jungles? How many poisonous spiders were they bitten by? How many poisonous frogs were they, stung by? Etc., etc., etc. So in other words, they went on this whole wild goose chase looking for this easy gold, where all they got to do is go in and kill the people and take the gold, and now all of a sudden everything is better for them. That would be no different than you today, thinking that you're going to be able to win the lottery and overnight your financial situation is going to change. Or you're going to meet the man of your dreams and get married, and all of a sudden your financial life change. Or you're going to find some type of governmental document and fill it out and be able to turn it in, and now all of a sudden the government owes you money. All these are deceptions. No different than what the Amaru Americans used in 1532. No different what the Amaru Americans used on Old Nat. Because that brother on Old National who finessed my friend was a descendant of the ancient Amaru Americans. Because all so-called black Americans are. So this jugging and finessing is still here. And we still using it. Lord knows I use it. I just do it in a much different way now. All right. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to get anything that seems easy. You want to take the long road. You want to go on the Odyssean journey. And when you get your success, you don't want no sorrow added to it. All right. That's one of the quotes from Blackbeard's mother. When you get the blessings of the Lord in the land of the living, you don't want any sorrow added to it. And when you take things for free, or when somebody gives you something and you just willingly accept it and you don't ask what the requirements are or what it has come with, somewhere down the line, there will be some sorrow added to that. Just like the people who make the Faustian pact with Satan, the adversarial energy of the universe. When you make that Faustian pact, sure, you're going to get whatever it is you want. But on the back end, the satanic energy will come and get what it wants in return. You know, and I was joking about this with my brother yesterday, but it's kind of like in that Murder Was the Case video with Snoop Dogg. You can remember where, you know, Snoop was getting into a bunch of fuckery and he ended up getting shot. And in that twilight, when his soul was about to leave his physical body, he was approached by the adversary. And the adversary told him that he would return his life to him. He would give him ounces and pounds of marijuana. He would give him plenty of women and plenty of money and success and comfort. But in return, he wanted Snoop's soul and spirit. And what did Snoop do? He traded his soul and spirit, and he got that wealth from that satanic force. And as time went on in the music video, you saw Snoop having fun. You saw him in the lowriders. You saw him with the beautiful women, and everything is going good. But then Satan came and he said, just remember who changed your mind. When you start set tripping, that ass is mine. Let me say that again. When Snoop was in the video and everything was going good and he took the free lunch, when he actually reached his hand out for what was glittering, but it wasn't gold, when it was time for him to pay the piper, aka Saturn, aka Satan, Satan came and he said, just remember who changed your mind, because when you start set tripping, that ass is mine. And when he told him set tripping, he wasn't talking about Crips and Bloods. He's saying that you under the law of Satan. You ain't under the law of the Almighty Creator. Don't be calling out to God. Don't be calling out to the Most High or your ancestor or the Great Spirit or any righteous path of power that you think is out there for you. No, it was me, Satan, who gave you this. It was the blessing of Lucifer who gave you this. Okay, so don't set trip. You don't claim Crip, but you really blood. Don't go crying out to God, but you're really under the law of Satan. And a lot of the times when you take the free lunch, it is the hand of Satan somewhere that is giving it to you. So you all just think about this lesson. And we'll have more of these coming in the future, of course. But hopefully you profited a lot from this and you'll take heed to what I'm saying. Stay tuned. I'm out.